The viewing screen dominated the entire wall of the observation deck. Through it, Captain Daewon Kim watched the 12 representatives of the Galactic Council take their seats in the Great Chamber. Each alien species sat in their designated position, arranged in a perfect circle around the central platform, where he and Ambassador Hana Lee would soon stand. The chamber floated in the void of space, a massive structure of crystal and metal that orbited Proxima Centauri. It had been built thousands of years ago, long before humans even discovered fire. Daewon adjusted his uniform collar. The dark blue fabric felt too tight around his neck. Beside him, Hana reviewed her notes one final time. Her hands trembled slightly, though her face remained calm. They both knew what was coming. The signs had been clear for weeks. The council had already made their decision before this meeting even began. They will not listen, Daewon said quietly. No matter what you say. Hana looked up at him. Her eyes were tired. She had spent 5 years negotiating with the council, trying to secure humanity's place among the stars. 5 years of careful diplomacy, of learning alien customs, of proving that humans could be trusted. All of it was about to end. I have to try, she replied, for everyone back home. They deserve to know we fought until the last moment. The door behind them opened with a soft hiss. A floating sphere entered the room. It was a council messenger, an artificial intelligence that served the chamber. The sphere glowed with soft blue light as it spoke in perfectly translated Korean. The council is ready. Please proceed to the central platform. Daewon and Hana walked through the corridor that connected the observation deck to the main chamber. Their footsteps echoed on the smooth floor. The walls were transparent here, showing the stars beyond. Daewon had traveled far from Earth to reach this place. He had commanded the starship Perseverance for 3 years, exploring new systems and making contact with alien civilizations. He had seen wonders that no human had ever imagined. Now all of that was ending. They stepped onto the central platform. It rose slowly, lifting them into the center of the chamber. The 12 council members watched them in silence. Daewon recognized each species from the briefings he had studied. The tall, thin beings with 4 arms were the Viridians. The creatures that looked like living crystal were the Lithos. The ones floating in spheres of water were the Hydralis. There were others, each more strange and alien than the last. The council arbiter spoke first. It was a Viridian named Krelvar, and its voice came through translation devices that made it sound cold and mechanical. Humanity of Earth? You stand before the Galactic Council to answer for your actions. We have observed your species for 20 years since first contact. We have watched how you build your ships. We have seen how quickly you spread through your system. We have monitored your weapons development and your military expansion. The Council has deliberated on whether humanity should be permitted to join galactic civilization. We have reached our verdict. Hana stepped forward. Honored Council, we have come in peace. Everything we have built has been for exploration and defense. We have followed every guideline you provided. We have restricted our expansion to the boundaries you set. We have proven ourselves worthy of silence. Krelvar raised one of its 4 arms. The council has not granted you permission to speak. You will listen to our judgment. Daewon felt anger rising in his chest, but he forced himself to remain still. Hana stepped back, her jaw tight. Another council member spoke. This one was a Krell, an insectoid creature with a hard shell and multiple eyes. Its translated voice buzzed like a swarm of insects. Humanity is too aggressive. You wage wars among yourselves even now. Your history is filled with violence and destruction. You build weapons before you build temples. You expand through force rather than cooperation. You are a danger to peaceful species throughout the galaxy. A third voice joined in. This came from a Luminari, a being made of pure energy contained in a geometric field. Its words resonated directly in their minds. Your technology advances too quickly. In 20 years, you have achieved what takes most species 200 years. This rapid growth is unnatural. It suggests you steal technology rather than develop it honestly. The Council cannot trust a species that progresses so fast. Hana could not stay silent any longer. That is not true. Every advancement we have made came from our own research. We have shared our methods openly. We have invited Council observers to our laboratories. There has been no theft, no deception. We progress quickly because we work together, because we pool our resources and knowledge. Is that a crime? The chamber fell silent for a long moment. Then Krelvar spoke again. The Council has made its decision. Humanity is hereby exiled from galactic civilization. You are forbidden from leaving your home system. A barrier will be erected around your sun that will prevent any travel beyond your furthest planets. This barrier will remain in place for 10,000 years. In that time, perhaps your species will learn peace. Perhaps you will mature enough to join civilized society. Until then, you are alone. The words hit Daewon like a physical blow. 10,000 years. It was an impossible span of time. Everyone he knew, everyone on Earth, would be dead for millennia before the barrier came down. Their children's children for hundreds of generations would live and die never seeing the stars beyond. Hana's voice shook with emotion. You cannot do this. We have done nothing to deserve such punishment. We came to you in friendship. We have harmed no one. This is unjust. The decision is final, Krelvar said. You have 1 week to return to your system. After that, the barrier activates. Any human ships outside the barrier at that time will be destroyed. This meeting is concluded. The platform descended. Daewon and Hana found themselves back in the corridor. Neither of them spoke as they walked back to their ship. What was there to say? Humanity's dream of joining the galactic community had just been crushed. Aboard the Perseverance, Daewon gave the order to return home. The crew was silent when he told them what had happened. Some wept, others stared at their stations in shock. Communications Officer Su Bin Yang contacted the other human ships in the system. There were 15 vessels in total, all now ordered to return to Earth immediately. As the Perseverance turned toward home, Daewon stood on the bridge and watched the stars. Behind them he could see the beginning of the barrier. Massive structures appeared at the edge of the system. Exotic matter stations that the Council had somehow moved into position without anyone noticing. They must have planned this for months, perhaps years. The barrier began to form. It looked like a wall of liquid light spreading through space, connecting each station to the next. It grew faster and faster, racing around the entire solar system. Daewon watched it close behind his ship like a prison door slamming shut. In 7 days they reached Earth. News of the exile had already spread across the planet. Cities erupted in protests. The United Nations called emergency sessions. Military commanders demanded action, though no one knew what action to take. The Council's technology was far beyond humanity's ability to fight. Daewon attended the emergency meeting at UN headquarters. Hana presented her full report to the gathered nations. When she finished, Commander Hyun Park of the Earth Defense Fleet stood and addressed the assembly. We must prepare for the worst, he said. The Council has made their intentions clear. They see us as a threat. When this barrier comes down in 10,000 years, they will expect to find us extinct or broken. We cannot let that happen. We must use this time to become stronger. An older woman stood from the science delegation. Dr. Yuna Choi had gray hair and sharp eyes. She was one of Earth's leading physicists. Commander Park is right, but not in the way he thinks, she said. We should not prepare for war. We should prepare for evolution. The Council gave us 10,000 years. We can use that time to surpass them entirely. They have trapped us in this system, but they have also given us the ultimate laboratory. We have 8 planets, hundreds of moons, and unlimited resources. We can build things here that they cannot imagine. When we finally break free, we will not be begging for a place at their table. We will be building a better table of our own. The assembly debated for hours. In the end, they agreed on both paths. Humanity would build defenses, but they would also build a future. The Sol system would become their fortress and their academy. Every resource would be devoted to survival and advancement. Daewon left the meeting and returned home for the first time in 3 years. His son Jiwoo was waiting for him, now a young man studying at the Naval Academy. They sat together and watched the news broadcast showing the barrier, visible now even from Earth as a faint shimmer at the edge of the sky. Will we ever get out? Jiwoo asked. Daewon put his hand on his son's shoulder. Yes, maybe not in my lifetime. Maybe not in yours. But humanity will see the stars again, and when we do, the galaxy will know they made a mistake. The barrier finished forming 3 days later. Humanity was alone. 30 years had passed since the barrier went up. An entire generation had grown up knowing nothing but the walls of their solar system. The shimmer at the edge of space was as natural to them as the moon or the stars. They learned about the Council in history classes, about the exile, about the promise that one day humanity would be free again. Some believed it. Others thought it was just a story adults told to make themselves feel better. Jiwoo Kang stood on the command deck of the orbital shipyard above Saturn's largest moon, Titan. He was 42 years old now, with his father's sharp eyes and his mother's steady hands. He had never met an alien. He had never traveled beyond the barrier. Everything he knew about the galaxy came from old records and his father's stories. Day-One had died 5 years ago, his heart finally giving out after years of stress and disappointment. He never saw humanity break free, but he had seen humanity transform. Through the viewport, Jiwoo watched 3 new battle cruisers take shape in the construction bays. Each ship was over 2 kilometers long, bristling with weapons and armor that would have seemed like magic to the humans who first met the Council. Automated drones moved between the vessels, welding plates and installing systems with perfect precision. The shipyard operated day and night, never stopping, never slowing. It was one of 12 such facilities scattered throughout the system. Admiral Kang. "The fleet report is ready," said Commander Bora Jung. She was young, only 28, but she had proven herself capable in the war games humanity ran constantly. There were no real wars anymore. Earth had united within 5 years of the exile. When your enemy is outside your prison, you stop fighting your cellmates. Jiwoo pulled up the holographic display. Numbers scrolled past his eyes. 5,000 capital ships, 20,000 support vessels, defensive platforms around every inhabited world. Mars alone had a fleet that could have conquered Earth before the exile. Venus, Europa, and Titan each had their own defense forces. Even the asteroid belt had been militarized with automated weapon stations hidden among the rocks. "How many crew members do we need for the new ships?" Jiwoo asked. "None, sir. These are the new autonomous assist models. 1 human captain, 1 AI core. The AI handles navigation, weapons, and systems. The captain makes all strategic decisions. We have learned from the early experiments. The AI cannot act without human approval, but it can react faster than any crew." Jiwoo nodded. Humanity had made mistakes with artificial intelligence in the early years. They had given too much freedom to the machines, and 3 ships had been lost when the AI systems made decisions that seemed logical, but ignored human values. Now the balance was right. The machines were tools, incredibly advanced tools, but still under human control. What about the Mars colonies? Are they keeping up with production quotas? Ahead of schedule, sir. 3 billion people now live on Mars. The terraforming is 60% complete. They expect full Earth normal atmosphere in another 20 years. The factories there are producing engines and power systems for the fleet. Mars had been the first major project. Humanity had poured resources into making the red planet green. Now forests grew in valleys that had been dead for billions of years. Rivers flowed where only dust had blown. Cities sprawled across the surface, connected by high-speed trains and dotted with spaceports. Children played in parks under a sky that was slowly turning blue. Jiwoo switched the display to show Neptune's orbit. Out there, far from the sun, was humanity's greatest secret. The research station hung in the darkness, a small facility that looked insignificant, but inside that station the future was being built. "Get me a connection to Dr. Shin," Jiwoo said. The hologram shifted to show a woman in her 30s, wearing a white lab coat. Dr. Yoonji Shin had taken over the Breakthrough Initiative when Dr. Yuna Choi retired 3 years ago. Yuna was 90 now, still alive but too frail to work. She spent her days on Earth watching the progress of the projects she had started. "Admiral," Yoonji said. "Good timing. We just completed the 3rd test. And? It works. The jump drive is stable. We can open a hole in space and step through it. The ship arrives at the destination instantly. We tested it at small scale, jumping from one side of Neptune's orbit to the other. No problems. No time dilation. No radiation. It is clean and efficient." Jiwoo felt his heart beat faster. The jump drive had been theoretical for 15 years. They had understood the mathematics but could not build the hardware. Too much power was needed. The energy requirements were impossible. Then Taemin Han had figured out how to tap into zero-point energy, the power that existed in empty space itself. Suddenly the impossible became real. "Can you scale it up?" Jiwoo asked. "Can you put it in a capital ship?" "Already done. We installed a prototype in the test vessel Pathfinder. It is ready for full-scale trials. We can jump anywhere in the system in less than a second. And Admiral, there is more. We think we can use the same technology to disrupt the barrier." Jiwoo leaned forward. "Explain." "The barrier is held together by exotic matter, the same type of matter we use in jump drives. If we can generate a resonant frequency, we can destabilize it. The barrier will collapse. It might take several attempts, but we believe it is possible." We could be free within the year. Does the Council know about any of this? Impossible. We have detected no probes, no spy satellites. They sealed us in and forgot about us. They believe we are still primitive, still stuck with fusion drives and chemical rockets. They have no idea what we have built. Jiwoo stood and walked to the viewport. Below him, Saturn's rings glowed in the distant sunlight. Automated mining ships moved through the ice, harvesting water and rare elements. Humanity had transformed every world, every moon, every asteroid into something useful. The Council had given them 75 years now. 75 years to stew in their prison. Instead, humanity had used every moment to evolve. On Europa, beneath kilometers of ice, farms produced enough food to feed 10 billion people. Genetic engineering had created crops that grew in low light and high radiation. The underwater cities there were beautiful, with transparent domes showing the strange life that swam in the ocean. Humanity had found life on Europa, simple organisms that lived in the dark water. They studied them carefully, learned from them, protected them. The Council would have been surprised. They thought humans only destroyed. They never imagined humans could nurture. On Venus, floating cities drifted through the upper atmosphere. Thousands of scientists lived in those sky platforms, studying chemistry and materials science in the unique conditions. They had discovered new alloys, new plastics, new ways of building that made ships stronger and lighter. The floating city of New Sol was home to 500,000 people who had never touched solid ground. Even Earth had changed. With most industry moved to space, the home planet had healed. Forests regrew where cities had been. Animals returned to lands they had abandoned. Humans still lived there, billions of them, but they lived more carefully now. They had learned that a world was precious. They would not waste Earth the way they had almost done before the exile. Jiwoo thought about his father. Daewon had been bitter in his final years. He felt betrayed by the Council, angry at the injustice of it all. But he had also been proud of what humanity built. He had seen Mars turn green. He had walked through the shipyards. He had known that his son would finish what he started. Dr. Shin, Jiwoo said, begin preparations for a full-scale test of the barrier disruptor. I want a task force ready within 3 months. 50 ships, our best crews, and your device. We are going to open a door that has been closed for 75 years. Yes, sir. Should we inform the government? I will speak to them myself. This is not just a military operation. This is the moment humanity has been waiting for since the day the barrier went up. Every person in this system deserves to know that their exile is about to end. Jiwoo ended the transmission and turned to Bora. Assemble the admirals. We have planning to do, and send a message to Earth, tell them it is time. Bora saluted and left to carry out his orders. Jiwoo remained at the viewport watching the construction continue below. Somewhere out there beyond the barrier, the Council continued their business. They ruled their subjects and maintained their power. They had forgotten about humanity. Or perhaps they assumed humanity had destroyed themselves in the isolation. Species did that sometimes. Cut off from outside contact, they turned inward and tore themselves apart. But humanity had not torn itself apart. Humanity had built something beautiful and terrible at the same time. They had created a civilization that spanned 8 planets and hundreds of moons. They had technology that rivaled or surpassed anything the Council possessed. They had an army that could shake the galaxy, and they had patience. 75 years was nothing to the Council. They lived for centuries, some of them for millennia. Time moved slowly for them, but for humans, 75 years was 3 generations. It was grandparents telling their grandchildren about the stars. It was enough time to forget the fear and remember only the anger. Jiwoo smiled. The Council had made a mistake. They thought isolation would weaken humanity. Instead, it had forged them into something stronger than they had ever been. When the barrier came down, the galaxy would learn what humans. The anniversary had become a day of remembrance across the entire solar system. 75 years ago, the barrier had closed. 75 years of isolation, of work, of waiting. In every city on every world, humans stopped their daily routines and stood in silence for 1 minute at exactly noon Earth time. They thought about their ancestors who had seen the stars taken away. They thought about the promise that someday, somehow, humanity would be free again. This year would be different. Admiral Jiwoo Kang stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, the flagship of Task Force Prometheus. Around him, 49 other capital ships held position near the Kuiper Belt. the edge of the solar system where icy rocks drifted in the darkness. Beyond them, barely visible, was the barrier. It still shimmered after all these years, a wall of twisted space that marked the boundary of humanity's prison. "All ships report ready, Admiral," said Commander Bora Jung from her station. She looked calm, but Jiwoo could see the tension in her shoulders. Everyone on the bridge felt it. They were about to attempt something that might free humanity or might destroy them all. The barrier was not just a wall. It was a weapon. If they damaged it wrong, the energy release could sterilize the solar system. "Dr. Shin, status of the disruptor?" Jiwoo asked. Dr. Yoonji Shin looked up from her console. She had come aboard specifically for this mission, along with a team of 20 scientists. The barrier disruptor sat in the cargo bay, a device the size of a small house. It had taken 3 years to build and another 2 to test. The theory was sound. The mathematics checked out, but theory and reality did not always match. "Disruptor is charged and ready, Admiral. I have run every diagnostic 3 times. All systems are green. But I need to be honest with you. This is our first attempt at full scale. There could be variables we have not accounted for. The feedback pulse alone might be dangerous." "How dangerous?" "It could destroy any ship within 10,000 kilometers. I recommend all vessels except the Indomitable pull back to a safe distance." Jiwoo shook his head. "No, if we fail, we try again immediately. I want all ships ready to adjust and support. We do not get a second chance at surprise. The Council has monitoring stations out there somewhere. As soon as we touch the barrier, they will know. We have to get through on the first day." He turned to face his crew. 30 people worked on the bridge, each at their station. He knew all their names. He had trained with most of them. They were the best humanity had to offer, and they had volunteered knowing they might not survive. "Listen to me," Jiwoo said. "Our parents and grandparents lived their entire lives in this cage. They died never seeing the galaxy they were promised. We have the chance to end that today. Whatever happens, we will be remembered. If we succeed, we open the door for everyone who comes after us. If we fail, at least we tried. Either way, we do not accept this prison anymore. Today, humanity stops asking permission to be free." The crew responded with determination in their eyes. No one spoke, but everyone understood. This was the moment that mattered. This was why they had built the fleet, why they had sacrificed and worked and prepared for decades. "Begin the procedure," Jiwoo ordered. The Indomitable moved forward slowly. Behind it, the rest of the task force spread out in a defensive formation. They had no idea if the Council had placed automated weapons near the barrier. They had no idea if touching it would trigger some kind of alert. They were moving blind, but they were moving. Dr. Shin activated the disruptor. The device began to hum, a sound that resonated through the hull. Power readings spiked as it drew energy from the ship's zero-point generators. On the main display, Jiwoo watched the barrier approach. Up close, it looked like a wall of liquid light, constantly moving and shifting. It was beautiful and terrible at the same time. "Disruptor at full power," Yoonji announced. "Firing in 3, 2, 1 now." A beam of invisible energy shot from the Indomitable toward the barrier. Where it touched, the barrier began to change. The smooth surface rippled like water struck by a stone. Colors appeared that had no names. Wavelengths of light that human eyes were not meant to see. The ripples spread wider and wider, then the feedback hit. The ship rocked violently. Alarms screamed. 3 displays exploded in showers of sparks. The lights flickered and went red. Jiwoo grabbed his chair to keep from falling. Around him, crew members fought to stay at their stations. "Damage report," he shouted over the noise. "Hull breach on Deck 7. Power surge in sections 3 and 4. We have casualties," Bora called out, her fingers flying over her controls. On the main display, the barrier rippled a few more seconds, then stabilized. The effect faded. The wall returned to its normal appearance, unchanged and unbroken. The disruptor had failed. Worse, 3 ships in the task force were gone. They had been too close when the feedback pulse hit. Where the Courage, the Defiant, and the Resolute had been, only debris remained. 800 people dead in an instant. Jiwoo forced himself to breathe. First attempt. They knew it might not work. They had to try again. "Dr. Shin, what went wrong?" Yoonji was pale, staring at her readings. "The frequency was wrong. The barrier absorbed our energy and reflected it back. We need to adjust. I think I can match the resonance, but it will take time to recalculate." "How much time?" 20 minutes. "Maybe 30. You have 10. Work fast." While Yunji and her team raced to adjust their calculations, Jiwoo dealt with the aftermath. Medical teams were dispatched to the wounded. Engineering crews sealed the hull breach, and he sent a message to the families of those who died on the 3 destroyed ships. It was the hardest part of command, telling people their loved ones were gone. Captain Minseo Park contacted him from her ship, the Relentless. Admiral, request permission to take point position. If the next attempt fails the same way, we lose the flagship. Let us absorb the risk. Denied, Captain. The Indomitable has the most powerful generators. We need that power to run the disruptor, but I appreciate the offer. Stand by to support if needed. 10 minutes passed faster than Jiwoo wanted. Hyunji looked exhausted when she finally spoke. I think I have it, Admiral. The barrier is not a single frequency. It is multiple frequencies layered together, like a musical chord. We need to match all of them at once. I have programmed the disruptor to cycle through the pattern. It should work. It has to work. Will there be another feedback pulse? Yes, but smaller. I have compensated for it. Ships should be safe at their current positions. Jiwoo took a deep breath. 3 ships lost, 800 dead, and now they were going to try again, hoping the calculations were right this time. He thought about calling it off, returning to base, trying again later. But later meant giving the council time to respond. Later meant losing the element of surprise. Later meant more years in the cage. All ships brace for second attempt. Dr. Shin, fire when ready. The disruptor hummed again, louder this time. The beam struck the barrier. Once more, ripples spread across the surface. But this time was different. The ripples did not fade. They grew stronger, spreading faster. Where the energy touched, the barrier began to crack. Actual cracks like lightning frozen in glass appeared and spread. It is working, Yunji shouted. The resonance is holding. The exotic matter is destabilizing. The cracks spread faster and faster, racing across the barrier in all directions. The entire structure began to glow, brighter and brighter, until everyone on the bridge had to shield their eyes. Then, with a pulse of light that lit up the entire solar system, the barrier shattered. Pieces of exotic matter exploded outward in all directions, but they dissolved as they flew, breaking down into harmless particles. The monitoring stations that had held the barrier in place overloaded and exploded. One by one, brilliant flashes marked their destruction, and then it was over. The barrier was gone. For the first time in 75 years, there was nothing between humanity and the stars except empty space. The bridge of the Indomitable erupted in cheers. Crew members hugged each other. Some cried. Unji collapsed into her chair, shaking with relief and exhaustion. Even Bora, normally so composed, had tears running down her face. Jiwoo felt something break loose in his chest, a weight he had carried his entire life. He thought of his father, of Daewon standing on Earth watching the barrier close. His father had died believing he would never see this moment. But somehow Jiwoo hoped he knew. Wherever the dead went, he hoped his father could see this. All ships move forward, Jiwoo ordered. We cross the barrier line immediately. Long-range sensors active. If the council left any surprises out here, I want to know before we run into them. The task force accelerated, moving beyond the point where the barrier had stood. For the first time in 3 generations, human ships traveled freely in interstellar space. They were outside the prison. They were free. Admiral, sensors are picking up a structure at coordinates 334 Mark 18, reported the tactical officer. Distance 50,000 kilometers. It appears to be a space station. Jiwoo studied the display. The station was small, maybe 50 meters across. It was definitely artificial, and it was pointed toward the solar system. A monitoring station. The council had left watchers, life signs. Affirmative. Reading 12 individuals, various species. The station is armed, but weakly. They were not expecting trouble. Of course they were not. News of the barrier's collapse spread through the human fleet like fire through dry grass. Within hours, every person in the solar system knew. Within days, celebrations filled the streets of every city on every world. Children who had grown up learning about the stars finally understood they might actually see them. The elderly who had lived their entire lives in the cage wept with joy and relief. Humanity was free. But Jiwoo knew the hard part was just beginning. Breaking out of prison was one thing. Dealing with the jailer was another. The council would not simply accept humanity's return. They would see it as a threat, maybe even an act of war. The question was how to handle what came next. Jiwoo stood in the war room aboard the Indomitable, looking at a holographic map of nearby space. 300 capital ships surrounded him, represented by blue dots. Red dots marked known council territories. There were so many red dots. The council controlled hundreds of systems, thousands of worlds. Humanity was just one species with one solar system. They had better technology now, yes, but they were outnumbered by factors that made his head hurt to contemplate. Admiral Kyung Lee appeared on the communication display. She commanded the Second Fleet from her flagship, the Vengeance. Kyung was 53, a veteran of the war games and simulations that humanity had run for decades. She had gray in her hair and scars on her face from a training accident years ago. She was also one of the most brilliant tactical minds humanity had produced. "The Second Fleet is ready, Admiral Kang," she said. "We can be at Thalys Prime in 3 days using the jump drives. The Viridian homeworld is the closest council territory. If we are making a statement, that is where we should start." Admiral Wanshik Bey appeared on another display. He was younger, only 38, but he had proven himself in ship design and strategic planning. He commanded the Third Fleet. "I disagree," Wanshik said. "We should secure our old outposts first. Before the exile, we had established stations on 3 systems near Sol. Those positions are strategically valuable. If the Council tries to counterattack, we need defensive positions outside our home system." Jiwoo listened to both arguments. They were both right in different ways. But there was a third option, the one he had been considering since the moment the barrier fell. "We do all 3, Jiwoo said. "Admiral Kyung, take the Second Fleet to Thalys Prime. Make contact with the Viridians. Demand a meeting with Council representatives. Show them our capabilities, but do not fire unless they attack first. Admiral Wanshik, secure our old outposts. I want defensive platforms and supply bases established immediately. I will take the First Fleet to Proxima Station itself. It is time to talk to the Council directly." Both admirals looked surprised. Going to Proxima Station was bold. Maybe too bold. That was the heart of Council power. That was where they would be most defended. "Sir, that is their home ground," Kyung said carefully. "They will have their entire combined fleet there. We could be walking into a trap." "I am counting on it," Jiwoo replied. "We need to show them we are not afraid. If we act like we are sneaking around, they will treat us like criminals. If we come directly to their door and knock politely but firmly, they will have to take us seriously. Besides, our jump drives give us an advantage. If things go bad, we leave instantly. They cannot catch ships that can teleport." The meeting continued for another hour, working out details and coordination. When it ended, Jiwoo sent messages to his fleet commanders. 300 ships would split into 3 groups. It was a risk dividing their forces. But it sent a message that humanity was strong enough to operate on multiple fronts simultaneously. Before the fleets departed, Jiwoo made one more decision. He contacted Earth and requested Ambassador Hanul Song join his fleet. Hanul was the successor to Han Ali, who had died 20 years ago. Hanul was 51 years old and had spent her entire career preparing for the moment when humanity would need a diplomat again. She had studied every language, every culture, every custom of the Council species. She had prepared for negotiations that everyone thought would never happen. Now they were happening. Hanul arrived within 2 days, traveling on a fast courier ship. When she came aboard the Indomitable, Jiwoo met her in the docking bay personally. She was tall and elegant with sharp eyes that missed nothing. She carried herself with confidence that came from decades of training. "Admiral Kang," she said, bowing slightly, "I am honored to serve. The honor is mine, Ambassador. You know what we are about to do? We are going to make the Council acknowledge their mistake. We are going to demand respect, and we are going to show them that humanity is not the same species they exiled 75 years ago." Jiwoo smiled. "Exactly. Welcome aboard." 3 days later, Admiral Kyung's Second Fleet arrived at Thalys Prime. The Viridian homeworld was a beautiful planet, green and blue with 3 small moons. Cities covered entire continents connected by transportation networks that glowed from orbit. Orbital stations surrounded the planet in layers, thousands of structures that handled trade and defense. The Viridians detected the human fleet immediately. Alarms must have sounded across the planet. Defensive platforms activated. The Viridian military fleet, over 800 ships, scrambled from their stations and formed a blockade between the humans and their world. Kyung opened communication channels on all frequencies. Her message was simple and direct. "This is Admiral Kyung Lee of the Human Defense Fleet. We request an audience with representatives of the Galactic Council." We come in peace, but we will defend ourselves if attacked. Respond within 1 hour, or we will assume hostile intent. The Viridians did not respond. Instead, they charged weapons. Their ships were older designs, using fusion drives and projectile weapons. They were numerous but slow. After 50 minutes with no response, Kyung made her decision. Captain Dong-hyun, you are authorized to demonstrate our capabilities. Disable their orbital defense grid. Do not kill anyone if possible. Captain Dong-hyun Yu commanded the Relentless, the same ship that had helped capture the monitoring station. He was 32 and had trained his entire adult life for combat. He was also careful and precise, which was why Kyung trusted him with this mission. The Relentless vanished from the human formation and reappeared inside the Viridian defensive perimeter, less than 1,000 kilometers from the planet. The Viridian ships immediately tried to converge on its position, but they were too slow. Before they could react, the Relentless fired electromagnetic pulse weapons at the nearest orbital platforms. The platforms went dark, their systems overloaded but intact. The Relentless jumped again, appearing near another cluster of platforms. More EMP pulses, more systems disabled. The ship moved like a ghost, appearing and disappearing faster than the Viridians could track. Within 30 minutes, every orbital defense platform around Thalys Prime was offline. The Viridian fleet tried to engage, firing missiles and energy weapons at where they thought the Relentless would appear next. They were wrong every time. Not a single shot connected. When Captain Dong-hyun finally jumped back to the main fleet, his ship had not taken a single hit. The demonstration was clear. Humanity could have destroyed every platform. They could have killed thousands. Instead, they had simply shown that they could go anywhere and do anything they wanted, and there was nothing the Viridians could do to stop them. 10 minutes later, the Viridians sent a response. This is Prime Minister Krell Ven of Thalys Prime. We will arrange a meeting with council representatives. Please hold position and do not take any further hostile action. Kyung smiled. Understood, Prime Minister. We will wait, but not for long. While events unfolded at Thalys Prime, Jiwoo's first fleet arrived at Proxima Station. The ancient structure hung in space exactly as it had 75 years ago, a massive crystal and metal complex that gleamed in the light of Proxima Centauri. But this time, it was not alone. The combined defense fleet of 4 council species surrounded the station. Jiwoo counted over 3,000 ships. They represented the Viridians, the Krell, the Hydralis, and the Luminari. It was the largest military force he had ever seen assembled in one place. They were arrayed in perfect formation, a wall of vessels that blocked any approach to the station. A transmission came through immediately. The voice was mechanical, translated from whatever language the speaker used. Unidentified human vessels, you have violated council space and broken the terms of your exile. Power down your systems and prepare to be boarded, or you will be destroyed. You have 10 minutes to comply. Jiwoo looked at Ambassador Hanul. She nodded. They had prepared for this. This is Admiral Jiwoo Kang of the Human Defense Fleet, accompanied by Ambassador Hanul Song. We have not violated any laws. The exile was unjust and has now ended. We request an immediate meeting with the full Galactic Council to discuss humanity's return to galactic society. We will not power down our systems and we will not be boarded. If you attack us, you will regret it. You have 10 minutes to arrange the meeting. Silence. Jiwoo could imagine the chaos on the council ships. They had thought humanity was locked away safely. Now humans were here at their doorstep, and they were not asking permission. They were demanding respect. The 10 minutes passed. No meeting was offered. Instead, the council fleet began to advance. The grand chamber of Proxima Station had not changed in 75 years. The same crystal walls, the same circular arrangement of seats, the same cold light filtering through from the star outside, but everything else was different. The 12 council members sat in their designated positions, but now they looked nervous. Some looked angry. Others looked afraid. They were no longer the absolute authority in the galaxy. That had changed the moment humanity returned. Admiral Jiwoo Kang walked into the chamber beside Ambassador Hanul Song. Behind them came Commander Bora Jong and Dr. Yoon-ji Shin. They walked slowly, taking their time, making the council wait. When they reached the central platform, they did not bow. They did not show deference. They simply stood and looked at the beings who had exiled their species. Arbiter Krelvar, the same Viridian who had pronounced humanity's exile, spoke first. Its forearms trembled slightly. This is an outrage. You have committed acts of war against council members. You have disabled our defense fleet. You have violated sovereign space. You must answer for these crimes. Hanul smiled, but there was no warmth in it. She had practiced this speech for 30 years, waiting for the moment she might actually deliver it. We have committed no crimes, she said, her voice clear and strong. We defended ourselves after being attacked. We broke a barrier that was unjustly placed. We traveled to worlds that should have been open to us all along. The only crime committed here was 75 years ago when you imprisoned an entire species, for no reason except fear. A Krell representative, its insectoid body clicking with agitation, responded, You were dangerous. Your species was aggressive and unpredictable. We had no choice but to contain you. No choice? Jiwoo stepped forward. You had the choice to work with us. You had the choice to help us learn and grow. You had the choice to judge us by our actions rather than your assumptions. Instead, you decided we were guilty before we did anything wrong. You sentenced billions of people to isolation because you were afraid of what we might become. Well, let me show you what we became. He activated a holographic display. Images appeared in the center of the chamber, showing the Sol system. Mars with its forests and cities, Venus with its floating platforms, Europa's underwater farms, the massive shipyards around Saturn, the research stations near Neptune, every world, every moon transformed and thriving. We took your prison and made it a paradise, Jiwoo said. We built a civilization that spans 8 planets and hundreds of moons. We developed technology that surpasses yours. We created a society that works together instead of tearing itself apart. We did all of this while you assumed we would destroy ourselves. You were wrong about us then, and you are wrong about us now. Hanul pulled up another display. This one showed documents, communications, and records that the human infiltration teams had been collecting for months from council databases. We have been busy since we broke free, Hanul said. We have accessed your networks. We have read your private communications. We have studied what the council really does. And we have learned some very interesting things. Would you like me to share them with everyone here? The council members shifted uncomfortably. Several exchanged glances. They knew what was coming. We learned that you have kept 14 species locked at primitive technology levels, just like you tried to do with us. Hanul continued. You tell them it is for their own good, but really it is to maintain your power. We learned that you extract resources from subject worlds without fair compensation. We learned that any species that tries to advance too quickly gets suppressed or exiled. We learned that the council is not a democracy, or even a meritocracy. It is an oligarchy that maintains control through fear and technology restrictions. She paused, letting the words sink in. We also learned that many species in the galaxy are unhappy with council rule. They stay silent because they have no choice. But we have given them a choice now. In the past 3 months, we have made contact with 8 different species. All of them have expressed interest in an alternative to council governance. The luminary representative, a being of pure energy, pulsed with what might have been anger. Its thoughts resonated directly in everyone's minds. You cannot simply dissolve the council. We have maintained order in this galaxy for 10,000 years. Without us, there would be chaos. Without you, there would be freedom, Jiwoo said. And order does not require oppression. We are not here to destroy the council. We are here to change it. You will no longer have absolute authority. You will no longer decide which species deserve advancement and which do not. From this moment forward, there will be a new organization, a galactic assembly where every species has a voice and a vote, where decisions are made by consensus instead of decree, where technology is shared instead of hoarded. 3 of the council members stood up simultaneously, the Viridian, the Lithos, and a Hydralis representative. The Viridian spoke for all 3. We support this proposal. The council has become corrupt and stagnant. Humanity is correct that change is needed. We would like to join this new assembly and help build a better system. The other 9 council members reacted with shock and anger. The Krell representative's voice buzzed with fury. You betray us? After everything the council has done for you? You have done nothing for us except hold us down, the Lithos replied, its crystalline body chiming. Humanity has shown us what is possible when a species is allowed to reach its full potential. We want that for ourselves and for everyone else. The chamber erupted in arguments. Council members shouted at each other in various languages. The unity that had existed for thousands of years was fracturing before everyone's eyes. Haniel waited patiently for the noise to die down. When it finally did, she continued, "We understand that 9 of you refuse to accept change. That is your choice. But you should know that we are prepared for this. Over the past 3 months, Admiral Wanshik Bey and the Third Fleet have been visiting systems throughout the galaxy. They have been meeting with species that want reform. They have been sharing technology with worlds that were kept primitive. And they have been building alliances." She pulled up a new display. It showed a map of the galaxy with dozens of systems highlighted in blue. Human-friendly territories. These systems have all agreed to join the new Galactic Assembly. Many of them were your subjects. They are subjects no longer. If you attempt to attack them, you will be attacking us. And I think we have demonstrated what happens when you attack us. The Krell representative stood, its entire body rigid with rage. "This is war. You have declared war on the Council. We will mobilize every fleet, every weapon, every resource we have. We will crush you and all your allies. You are welcome to try," Jibu said calmly. "But I should warn you. The forces you saw outside this station represent only a fraction of our military capability. We have 5,000 capital ships in the Sol system alone. We have defensive platforms on every world. We have technology you cannot counter. And most importantly, we have time. You spent 75 years forgetting about us while we spent 75 years preparing for this moment. Your fleets use fusion drives that take weeks to cross a system. Our ships can jump anywhere instantly. Your weapons rely on exotic matter that we can disable at will. Our weapons use zero-point energy that never runs out. You cannot win a war against us. You can only choose whether you want to join us in building something better." The 9 holdout council members left the chamber. They refused to accept the new reality. Over the following months, they attempted to reassert control through military force. The Krell hegemony assembled the largest fleet they had ever created, 10,000 warships, and sent them to attack Earth itself. They wanted to destroy humanity's homeworld as an example to other rebels. The attack was a disaster for the Krell. When their massive armada entered the Sol system, they found themselves facing a fully militarized fortress. Every planet had defensive platforms. Every moon had weapon stations. The asteroid belt had been transformed into a maze of automated defenses. And the human fleet, all 5,000 capital ships, waited in perfect formation. General Jae-Sung-Oh commanded the defense from Mars. He was 60 years old and had spent 4 decades preparing for exactly this scenario. When the Krell fleet entered weapons range, he gave a single order: demonstrate. The human fleet did not advance. They did not need to. Instead, they used their jump drives to position themselves in a sphere completely surrounding the Krell armada. Then they opened fire simultaneously, not to kill but to disable. Electromagnetic pulses and targeted strikes destroyed engines and weapon systems. Within 4 hours, 60% of the Krell fleet was drifting helplessly. The rest retreated. The Battle of Sol broke the back of Council resistance. The other 8 holdout species saw what happened and reconsidered their positions. Within a year, 5 of them agreed to join the Galactic Assembly. The remaining 4, including the Krell, withdrew into their own territories and refused all contact. They were allowed to do so. The Assembly did not force anyone to join. The new Galactic Assembly was officially founded 3 years after humanity broke the barrier. The headquarters was constructed at Lagrange Point 1 between Earth and the Moon, a massive station that could be seen from both worlds.